हेलो एवरीवन, वेरी वेरी वार्म वेलकम। आप सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है हमारे आज के न्यूज़पेपर एनालिसिस में। वेरी वेरी वार्म वेलकम टू ऑल ऑफ यू। आई होप कि आप सब अपना काफ़ी ध्यान रख रहे हैं एंड एज वी गेट क्लोजर टू द एग्जामिनेशन it becomes paramount for all of you to also ensure that you are doing revision on a daily basis. मैं रोज़ ये बात कहता ही हूँ, but it is something that needs to be stressed enough and cannot be reiterated more number of times कि the importance of this thing is so key to the success in your examination. बिना इसके एग्ज़ाम में सक्सेस पॉसिबल ही नहीं है. सो इफ़ यू आर अंडर एनी क्वाल्म्स कि नहीं मैं तो एक ही दिन के अंदर आई विल बी एबल टू डू, जैसे मैं स्कूल में रिविजन करता हूँ वैसे हो पाएगा, नहीं होगा. दिस इज़ अ competitive exam, it is a competitive space where you need to ensure that you are doing consistent effort towards your examination, and it isn't limited just to the current affairs section. GK section से ही limited नहीं है, it goes beyond all the other spectrum. So therefore keep consistency on your revision. नया पढ़ना जितना important है उतना ही revision भी important रहेगा. So on that note, there is something very exciting tomorrow for all of you. There is a landmark series of classes that I am going to take tomorrow, which updates for which will be listed out to you very soon. And if you are someone who is watching me for the very first time, then I am Kushagra Goyal, a graduate from National University, a Masters in Economics, and you can connect with me through my Telegram channel, that is Kushagra Goyal _Unacademy, and the notes of our classes मैंने टेलीग्राम ग्रुप में भी शेयर करे हैं, इज़ bit.ly/KUSHGK notes. So यहाँ से आप इन्हें एक्सेस कर सकते हैं. And today we will be doing 2 special classes including a doubt session. So our daily current affair quiz will happen at 11:20 AM and the revision quiz will happen at 7 PM. ये revision quiz will be focusing on all the recent legal judgment classes that we have taken throughout the year. So उस पे focus रहेगा इस session का. So please make sure that you are there for it. इसे miss मत करना. This is a 1 hour special class for all of you. And to access our daily quiz, all you need to do is use the code KUSHGK. ये एक free special class है, इसमें आप मुझसे सवाल पूछ सकते हो, ऑडियो पोल्स में पार्टिसिपेट कर सकते हो. So make sure that you are there for this one. So on that note, very good morning everybody. Hi Shubham, Veena, Sneha, Abhineet, Gayatri, Noor, Samriddhi, Kavya, Bharat, Rishi, Anurag. Very good morning to all of you. Great to see all your energy. So on the big news is on the right hand side in Pakistan and all the 5 districts of Pakistan are suffering from massive floods. Massive floods are happening in Pakistan. Approximately 1,000 lives have been lost. There is not a single district of Pakistan that is right now in rain deficit. Almost all the provinces, every town of Pakistan is suffering from high rainfall, and there have been warnings about this. Climate change warnings have been there for us, and especially around the region of where Pakistan is located, because of the high melting of the snow from the Hindu Kush mountains. That has drastically affected the climate of Pakistan, and now the Minister of Pakistan has called the floods of Pakistan of biblical proportions. Okay, they have highlighted these floods as a floods of biblical proportion, and it could mean, the Prime Minister also extended his condolences towards the outreach, and it could mean a reopening of trade between India and Pakistan, something that hasn't happened for almost 3.5 years since the change of Article 370 by the Indian government. But उसके बाद से there has been no trade, but these floods could lead to a change in that. The flood situation is being called by the minister there of biblical proportions. Okay, Then we come violent crimes in the country back to pre-COVID level. So हर साल there is a report that is published in by a statutory authority in India, that is the National Crimes Bureau of the country. हर साल जितने भी केसेस रजिस्टर होते हैं उनका एक रिकॉर्ड करके एक रिपोर्ट क्रिएट करी जाती है, which is by the NCRB. So the 2021 report has been released now. Yesterday it was released, and the situation is grim, especially in offences against women. The situation is very grim, but the NCRB report is a statutory one. It is by law supposed to be published every year. So a lot of data that the government collects is executive. उनके ऊपर option होता है कि they want to do it or not do it. But there are certain things that are of statutory duty of the government. So NCRB data or NCRB report is part of a statutory responsibility under this. Okay. So very good morning Anshika, Lakshita and Damanjeet. Very good morning. So the NCRB annual report is a statutory obligation. That's the nature of it जो आपको पता होनी चाहिए. Okay. Now we'll come to this on page number 10 where the reports of various crimes is being talked about and the number of filing related to it. So तब बात करेंगे. Then another major telecom company of the country, that is Reliance Jio, have also pointed out that they will be rolling out the services for 5G in 4 sectors, that is Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata and Chennai by the Diwali time period. Okay, so it's for 45th and general meeting, that is when they have confirmed that they will be doing this. Okay, so 5G services are now in the annual. Apart from this, we move on. So the Supreme Court has put the bail plea of Siddique Kappan on final disposal on September 9. So they'll be hearing the arguments about whether the individual should be granted bail or not. He was arrested on his way while he wanted to report on the horrific incidents around the Hathras gang rape and the actions by the government. So he was on his way, but he was arrested on the grounds that he has link with the outfit that is the Popular Front of India, which is not a banned outfit but is linked with terrorist activities. So in that regard, he has been there in jail for almost 2 years. No charge sheet has yet been filed, that is no clear evidence has been placed on record as to what are these links under which his custody is so important for the state. Okay, so that incident has been placed for September 9. Then we move on. So the capital, which is Delhi, is the most unsafe city of the country for women, and an average of a horrific thing or a horrific incident is the statistic that almost 3 rapes happen or are reported in the city every day in 2021, which is shameful on the highest level, that the city that comes under the Home Minister of the country reports 3 rapes against women on a daily basis. That is the anomaly of the city of Delhi. Okay, then we move on. On other national news, nothing of note for us. Okay, all these news are not of importance. Then we come to the editorial page. Now before we dive to the editorial page, a couple of things to be informed that if you are someone who is looking for preparation of your GK syllabus for the CLAT examination, from tomorrow onwards, my classes in the new Law Stark batch are beginning. This syllabus, this course or this batch will cover your entire current affairs plus static GK syllabus, and we'll be having 3 classes per week in the afternoon. To access this code or to enroll for this batch, you can use the code KUSHGK. The best part is कि अभी when you subscribe for this batch, you will get access to a minimum of 27% discount on your total subscriptions, and you will be making a savings on our increased prices also, which will begin from September the 1st. So if you are someone who wants to prepare for the best alternative, then this is your chance. So the code to subscribe is KUSHGK, and when you take iconic subscriptions of Unacademy, you also get access to physical notes, the sample copy of which you can be downloaded for free by scanning this QR code. And if you want to not take the sample notes from Unacademy, you can also take the plus subscription, which is of a reduced price and is also available for the same level of discount, that is a minimum of 20% and an up to 35% of savings on your subscriptions. The code to subscribe is again KUSHGK. And if you are a student who is preparing from the class 10th or 11th, you can enroll in the Success NLU batch, which will cover or prepare you for CLAT 2024 examination. The batch begins on September 1. So if you want to subscribe, then you can do it at the earliest. And you can also take subscriptions of a different time period and avail EMIs on your subscription options also. The code for discount is KUSHGK. So do it at the earliest because the prices of subscriptions are going to rise, and join these legendary toppers who cleared the examination in one go by studying at Unacademy, and avail live mentorship plus doubt solving plus priority in classes through the iconic program of Unacademy. For other doubts, you can call us at 8585858585, and now you can connect with Unacademy on Instagram also by scanning the QR code that you have on the bottom left corner. So on that note, the first one is there are no easy answers to the freebies issue. So this editorial brings out as to why this has been brought in. So सबसे पहले we'll be talking a little bit about the terminology used in this one. Okay. So skipping the early part, first let's talk about certain terms. So सबसे पहले we have the term of merit and non-merit goods. Merit and non-merit goods. Okay. So first of all are merit goods. Merit goods are all those goods or items or services that have a positive impact or externality on the society. Matlab, if there is even one person who receives these services, the entire community around that individual also benefits from that. For example, let's say there is a child. You are learning law in your household. You are the first lawyer in your household. Now, everybody in your family can make better legal decisions because they can consult you. So overall their practices will become improved. Okay, so that is known as a merit good. whereas a non-merit good are items of private consumption example, and they have a negative impact. Another thing that they do is they cause a negative impact. So for example, somebody is doing smoking. So let's say even if you're the person who is smoking a tobacco cigarette, the people around you are also suffering because of that. Similarly, a luxury car is less fuel efficient, causes far more carbon consumption, and that is a prime example of a non-merit good. Okay, so cigarettes, or alcohol consumption, all those are non-merit goods. So for example, if the state subsidizes non-merit goods, it is going to affect the society in a bad way, whereas if the state subsidizes merit goods, it is going to benefit the society in a positive way. Okay, so those are examples of merit or non-merit goods. Let's not write it here. Anyway, you can't see, right? Then the next term that they are pointing out is why is there sudden push towards a more holistic level of expenditure? कि क्यों states should probably not indulge in such freebies. So for example, one of the prominent things that is being highlighted is कि state provides free cycles to girls. State provides televisions to poor families. State provides, let's say, a mixie grinder to poor families. Are those merit goods or non-merit goods? उनकी क्या ज़रूरत है? But a bicycle could be in rural areas where there is less of access to services. A bicycle can go a huge way in access to education. Similarly, when the midday meal was started, it provided better nutrition to almost all children, and there was an incentive for poor families to send their children to school. So much so that in all the public and private schools of the developed world, the tiffin or the recess time period is where the meal is served by the school itself. Okay. So this is something that is positive. Another part of it that is being highlighted is about the state expenditure. Okay. So what are the parameters of state expenditure that need to be corrected, or where services are being, it is affecting? It is about high debt ratio of certain governments. Certain governments are suffering from a very high debt ratio, wherein the overall income or consumption of such governments is going down. That is where the challenge comes in. That is where the second challenge of the state comes in, because let's say a subsidy or a freebie is being created from where? The revenues that is being generated. ठीक है, the revenue that people generate, tax revenue कहीं से भी, उससे ये subsidies दी जाती हैं to people. Now if this is a revenue which is going in subsidies and freebies and is not going in investment for infrastructure, is not going in improvement of services, so eventually क्या होगा, जो existing infrastructure है वो weak होता जाएगा. अगर हम सड़कें continuously repair नहीं करेंगे तो they will fall in disrepair. अगर हम किसी let's say landlines, telephone lines, water system, हर साल अगर हम drains को clean नहीं करेंगे तो drains will go into disrepair, they will fall out, they will not be functional anymore, and eventually if the water problem or waterlogging problem in an area increases too much, people may move out and the revenue may fall. So the challenge is that if revenue is going in subsidies and is not going in infrastructure, subsidies will lead to low growth and the low growth will lead to reduction of revenue. And if revenue reduces or revenue falls, then eventually subsidies will fall, then more low growth होगी और भी revenue कम होता जाएगा. So this is a cycle or is being called a vicious cycle that the country needs to get out of. So if we spend on infrastructure, we will boost growth, growth will rise, and when growth rises, revenue will also rise. That is the argument that is being made. However, so this is one part of the structure. Then the second part of the article is talking about, can the court actually intervene? Can the courts of the country decide ki in which country or which part of the country what is essential and what is not? For example, in Mumbai and Delhi, the water provided by the state is so bad, everybody needs a water purifier, and water purifiers are expensive. So if the state is providing water purifiers to everybody, it is actually improving their health. Okay, that is, so can the state put a blanket ban on what the state can do? Can the court tell the executive on how the money should be spent? Because then that will also be an interference in the power of the parliament, because expenditure is decided by the parliament. So the second question is, can the courts intervene? And third is, can we put a cap on it? Can we say that, okay, freebies should not be 50%, but we have seen that how states have found a way around reservation upper limit. 50% was the upper limit. States have now gone beyond it. EWS reservation is already 10% more than that. There are other types of reservation also coming in. So is cap anything feasible? If not, then what's the purpose of it? Okay. And the last thing is about the question of growth versus equity. Okay. If we invest too much in growth, then there is lot of inequality. If we invest too much in equality, then there is less growth. So that is the challenge that is being pointed out by the author. It's an important one, especially on the point of goods and merit and non-merit goods, and the circle of why this discussion is happening. Okay. Then we move to the second editorial on the left hand side, Congress Conundrum. This is about the Congress party, whether how they will go out, whether they will be able to reorganize themselves. That's the question. Then the second one is power play. The lifting of suspension by FIFA is only a temporary end to AIFF's problem. Now, the ban by FIFA has been lifted on All India Football Federation. Football is called the beautiful game, and majority of the world's revenue in sports is generated from football. But India is an outlier where our revenue comes from another sport that is known as cricket. And that is where India has been lacking. Currently, we are ranked 104th in FIFA table, which is very, very poor in comparison. So even if, let's say, the World Cup is expanded to 48 teams, which is going to happen in 2026, we are still far, far behind. The level of football in our country is not so much, which shows that AIFF, the All India Football Federations, needs to do some soul searching. They need to do something to ensure that such events do not happen, okay, and that they are actually in a better situation eventually. All right. We already have discussed why the ban had happened. The ban had happened because the Supreme Court had put a limit on by appointment of a COA or the Committee of Administrators. FIFA found that as a third party influence. That third party has now been nullified, but the reforms in AIFF must go on. That is where the question is. Then we come to curing the patriarchal mindset of the legal system. So why are we talking about it? We are talking about it because a horrendous judgment was given by a Kerala High Court Kerala court, in which the Kerala court granted bail to an activist on the ground that the women who had claimed sexual harassment by the man was wearing provocative clothes. Whatever be the clothes of a woman, that is part of her own individual choice, and therefore nobody should interfere or tell the women what they should be doing. Do they tell man what they should be wearing or not? So similarly, that's the patriarchal mindset that needs to be cured. So first of all, we need an inclusion of feminist jurisprudence talking about the rights of women, what a man can do, what they cannot do, what are the recourse to women, and secondly, then we also need to ensure better access to for women in judicial and litigation services. So that's the challenge that is being talked about. There is also a mention of a book written by Geeta Hariharan, which is Listen to My Case When Women Approach the Courts of Tamil Nadu. This is the story of 20 women and their struggle for reaching justice in the society. Okay. Then we move on challenges of subnational fiscal correction. So you can say that this article is an extension of the main editorial that is also written. So the main editorial talked about why freebies should not be given. This editorial talks about what are the challenges and why we need to do that step. Okay, the center and states need to prioritize expenditure and adhere to fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline क्या होता है? Fiscal is basically your expenditure. What is fiscal? It's your expenditure. Okay. Now this expenditure, अगर normally if you are earning 100 rupees and you are spending 110, you are in debt of 10 rupees. Next month again you are earning 100 rupees, spending 110. So next month your debt will be minus 20. If this keeps on going, you'll finally fall into a debt trap where people might not give you anything, or you'll have to cut on your expenditure. That is what is known as fiscal discipline. If you know that your income is not going to come tomorrow, do not spend, reduce your spending. That is what this is about. If you are not going to earn, or if the states are going to suffer, or your revenue is falling, you need to cut on your expenditure, or you need to exercise prudence in how you spend it. So one of the challenges that is being talked about is this. Which is debt to Gsdp ratio, okay, which is gross state domestic product. Debt to Gsdp ratio, where Gsdp stands for gross state product. Okay, now in this, what does this mean? It shows, or this is a ratio that tells us the percentage, or let's say if your GDP is 100, what is the percentage of debt in your economy? Okay, what is the percentage of debt in your total GDP? What's the debt that you are carrying forward? Okay, so it could be 50. So from your total income, 50% is debt. Okay, that could be a alarm bell. All right. Overall, the debt to GDP ratio of Indian states has been rising from 22.6 to 25.1 and is now 31.2 in 2022. The overall percentage. So हर बार अगर कोई इंसान 100 रुपए कमा रहा है हमारी कंट्री में, या स्टेट को हम रेवेन्यू दे रहे हैं 100 रुपए का, 30% of it is only going in interest payment. So the less amount of money is left for more development. इस वजह से इसको करेक्ट करने की बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है. Now how can this be done is what the editorial is talking about. Fiscal consolidation, reducing your expenditure on non-essential things. For example, in the past 5 years, the governments of the country have spent 30% on marketing of the schemes. क्या ये ज़रूरी है? बिना मार्केटिंग करे अगर कोई काम हो सकता है तो करो प्लीज़. इफ़ यू हैव लेस मनी, इफ़ योर डेट इज़ राइजिंग, डोंट स्पेंड ऑन मार्केटिंग. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ अभियान में 900 करोड़ रुपीज़ वर स्पेंट ऑन एडवर्टाइजमेंट ऑफ द स्कीम. इफ this is part of expenditure that you can do away with. But for example, the money that you are giving to farmers or the money you are giving to lactating women, that's an essential expenditure. You have to do it. So decide on what kind of expenditure you need to do and what you do not need to do as part of fiscal consolidation. Then on the right hand side, new facets of terrorism. This is new form of terrorism. So for example, the horrific attack that happened on Salman Rushdie was by an individual based on something that Salman Rushdie had written 34 years ago. So it is saying that now security agencies need to spy so much to ensure or dig up so much data to find those rogue terrorists to prevent terrorism. But terrorists could go or amalgamate in society and only emerge once again when they carry out an attack of violence. Same is true in Russia also. So even the largest military apparatus or security states are also suffering from terror attacks, which shows that the amount of challenge that terrorism and radicalism has on security of the country. Then we come to this data point. So this data point is the time period taken over for filing of charge sheet in various offenses. Okay, nothing of note for us in this. Then the jurisprudence of bail. This is very, very important. What is bail? Why should bail be given? So the basic principle around bail is bail is the norm, jail is an exception. ठीक है. Jurisprudence होता है थ्योरी. जैसे कि मैंने अब ये स्टेटमेंट लिखा, बेल इज द नॉर्म, जेल इज एन एक्सेप्शन. दिस इज द जूरिस्प्रूडेंस ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन कि लोगों को जेल में तभी रखा जाए जब एक्सेप्शनल चीज होती है. बेल इज द नॉर्म इज बेल इज द वे टू गो अहेड. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इन इंडिया रिस्पेक्टिंग religion is a norm. Everybody is religious in some way or the other. So religion is a norm in Indian society. या फिर cricket is a norm in Indian society. Everybody in the country knows something or the other about cricket in the country. So norm is that, all right, which is the basic thing. Now bail किस grounds पे decide करी जाती है? When should a person not be given a bail is based on a triple test. This triple test is ascertainment whether the accused is at a flight risk, possibility of tampering with evidence, and influencing witness. Why should you not give bail? Question mark. First, flight risk. Second, tampering of evidence. And number 3, influencing witnesses. Okay, so this is the 3 major criterias of why bail should be, किसी को बेल क्यों नहीं मिलनी चाहिए. सो इफ दैट पर्सन कैन रन अवे, सेकेंड दे कुड टैम्पर विद एविडेंस, एंड थर्ड दे कैन इन्फ्लुएंस विटनेसेस इन द केस. सो इफ देयर इज अ पर्सन हु कैन डू ईदर ऑफ दीज थिंग, देन उसको बेल नहीं मिलनी चाहिए. बट अगर किसी को जेल में रखा भी जा रहा है, ओके, सो आई एम रिमूविंग दिस, ऑल राइट. And if a person is put in jail, okay, so jail has to be given by a procedure established by law. And this procedure should be fair, just and reasonable. किसी को अगर जेल में रखा भी जा रहा है तो दैट कैन ओनली बी डन थ्रू अ प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश बाय लॉ, मतलब कानूनी रेस्ट्रिक्शन या कानूनी तरीके से रखा जा सकता है. अब वो कानून क्या होना चाहिए? फेयर होना चाहिए, वो सब पे बराबर लगना चाहिए, वो जस्ट होना चाहिए, मतलब प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ जस्टिस को अडेयर करना चाहिए, और रीजनेबल होना चाहिए, मतलब एक नॉर्मल आदमी उसको अडेयर कर सके या उसको फॉलो कर सके, ऐसा होना चाहिए. अब अगर हमारे यहाँ ऐसा कहा जाए कि प्रोसीजर टू ऑब्टेन, या अगर आपको जेल में डाला जाएगा तो आपको जो कंडीशंस है कि क्यों जेल में डाला जा रहा है वो आपको स्पेनिश लैंग्वेज में बताया जाएगा. अब अगर स्पेनिश में बताया जा रहा है तो वो रीजनेबल कैसे? आपको स्पेनिश, इंडिया में मेजॉरिटी लोगों को स्पेनिश नहीं आती है, तो दैट इज़ नॉट अ फेयर एंड अ रीजनेबल सिस्टम. सिमिलरली आपको जेल में डाला जा रहा है, आपको टाइम ही नहीं दिया गया अपने आप को डिफेंड करने का, कोर्ट के पास कभी लेके ही नहीं गए, सीधा बोला जेल में जाओ, तो दैट इज़ नॉट जस्ट एंड फेयर सिस्टम, वो जस्ट और फेयर नहीं है. सो जेल में डाला भी जाए तो भी प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश बाय लॉ होना चाहिए जो कि फेयर, जस्ट और रीजनेबल होना चाहिए. ओके, so that's the criteria in the country for putting anyone in jail. All right, but in most of the cases we have seen that in so many ways people are denied bail on arbitrary grounds. Okay, मनगढ़ंत कहानियों पे, मनगढ़ंत ग्राउंड्स पे लोगों को जेल में डाला जा रहा है. ओके, सो दैट नीड्स टू बी कर्व्ड, इस वजह से ये बताया गया. ओके, सो हमारे लिए लॉ इम्पॉर्टेंट था. All right, then we come to Najib Razak and the 1MDB scandal. Now 1MDB was a public sector company founded by the Prime Minister. Okay, now this company was receiving kickbacks or direct money from the company itself. Privately, the Prime Minister was getting this money from the public sector undertaking, विच वॉज अ डायरेक्ट करप्शन. पैसा कंपनी को मिल रहा था डेवलपमेंट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए, वो पैसा प्राइम मिनिस्टर पर्सनल यूज़ के लिए यूज़ कर रहे थे. उसके ऊपर स्कैंडल हुआ है. नाउ द फॉर्मर प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ मलेशिया, दैट इज़ नजीब रजाक, इज़ इन जेल. सो 1MDB क्या थी? 1MDB एक पब्लिक सेक्टर कंपनी थी जिसको प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने अपनी पर्सनल एक्सपेंडिचर के लिए इस्तेमाल किया. ठीक है, देन वी कम एक्सप्लेनिंग पाकिस्तान फ्लिप फ्लॉप ऑन ट्रेड विद इंडिया. सो कल वापस से पाकिस्तान के फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर ने कहा दे में रिकंसिडर परचेजिंग और अलाउइंग ट्रेड फ्रॉम इंडिया, क्योंकि उनके वहाँ फ्लड की वजह से उनके पास खाने की चीज़ों की कमी हो गई है. सो अब सबसे पास में क्या है? इंडिया है, इंडिया से ट्रेड किया जा सकता है. सो बार बार ये अलाउ करना नहीं करना इज़ अ पॉलिटिकल फ्लिप फ्लॉप, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ पॉलिटिक्स ट्रायम्स नीड, लोगों की ज़रूरत से ऊपर उनकी कंट्रीज़ की पॉलिटिक्स होती है. दैट इज़ द चैलेंज दैट वी आर फेसिंग. Then we come to this. Okay, so on the national news, nothing of importance for us here. But first, Indian Air Force to induct first light combat helicopter squadron in October. So, हाल का बनाया हुआ हमारा पहला first LCH, okay, has already been part of the Indian Air Force. इसका नाम क्या है? इट विल बी पार्ट ऑफ द Mi-35 कॉप्टर स्क्वाड्रन. ओके, सो द करंट Mi-25-35 अटैक हेलीकॉप्टर्स है उसको रिप्लेस करेगा हमारा ये लाइट कॉम्बैट हेलीकॉप्टर. ओके, सो दैट इज वेयर वी विल बी मूविंग इन. दिस हैज़ बीन प्रोड्यूस्ड बाय द इंडियन पब्लिक सेक्टर अंडरटेकिंग, दैट इज़ हाल की तरफ से बनाए गए इंडिजिनस लाइट कॉम्बैट हेलीकॉप्टर्स को अब हमारे यहाँ पार्ट में रखा जाएगा. ओके, फर्स्ट यूनिट ऑफ द लाइट कॉम्बैट हेलीकॉप्टर किसने बनाए हैं? हिंदुस्तान एरोनॉटिक्स लिमिटेड ने. ठीक है, हीनस क्राइम होता है सीरियस क्राइम, शेमफुल, बहुत डिस्गस्टिंग क्राइम, जैसे गैंग रेप हो गए, मल्टीपल मर्डर्स हो गए, प्लान्ड ब्राइबरी, उस तरीके की चीज़ें. ओके, those are known as heinous crimes. Then we come more political news, nothing of note for us, ये सब हमारे काम का नहीं है. Then we come to Chinese troops stop graziers in Ladakh. So Chinese troops have been preventing our grazers in Ladakh from grazing in different areas around Demcho. सो रिसेंटली अनदर क्लैश हैपेंड, चाइनीज सोल्जर्स ने कहा अरे आप हमारी टेरिटरी में हो, यहाँ पे क्यों आए हो? सो वी स्टेटेड कि नहीं, ये हमारी टेरिटरी है. दैट इज़ द चैलेंज दैट दे आर फेसिंग. ओके, इन देमचोक 2020 से ही इंडिया चाइना के बीच में बहुत ज़्यादा चैलेंजेस चल रहे हैं अबाउट द वे टू गो अबाउट इट. LCH का नाम कुछ नहीं है, उसका नाम लाइट कॉम्बैट हेलीकॉप्टर ही है, अभी तक कोई नाम नहीं दिया गया. ओके, so this is the challenge where precarious it could escalate into hot wars between India and China. That is what is the real tension in border. Then we come UGC has launched a portal for a single पोर्टल फॉर कंप्लेंट्स. ओके, सो इस पोर्टल का क्या नाम है? UGC की तरफ से इसका नाम है UGC ई समाधान. ओके, वेरी सिंपल. ग्रेजियर्स होते हैं चरवाहे, ग्रेजर्स मतलब चरवाहे, पीपल हु टेक देयर कैटल फॉर ग्रेजिंग इन हिल एरियाज. ओके, कैटल ग्रेजिंग. ठीक है. LCH क्या है? लाइट कॉम्बैट हेलीकॉप्टर. यहाँ पे लिख देता हूँ मैं. ठीक है. Then we come on international news. So Sadr followers storm Iraq government palace. This is the religious Shia cleric group that has stated that they want re-elections in the country. They have been going against the state. इसके ऊपर protest काफ़ी दिनों से चल रहे हैं वहाँ पे. So this is the news about that Sadr followers storm Iraq government palace, Shia cleric group. So आप ऐसे नोट कर सकते हो, Shia cleric group. Then we come to this news. Snag postpones the NASA moon rocket launch. So हमने कल बात करी थी about the Artemis mission that has now been put on abeyance for the time period because probably there was an engine snag. One of the fuel before, just 45 minutes before the launch, the thing was put on hold because of problems. So it needs to be seen when they will be able to get it functional again. Then we come. Nothing of note. This is about the election news in Brazil. Presidential elections are due there. Then Indian rupee and our stock market has been falling primarily because of the troubles related to US Federal Reserve. US economy is in a churn. They are trying to reduce the level of credit in their economy and that is where the trouble is. जैसे जैसे developed economies अपनी चीज़ों को कम करने की कोशिश करेंगी या credit कम करेंगी तो investors के पास कम पैसा होगा to invest in developing countries such as India and we could face more problems there. ठीक है. Then we come, nothing of note from sporting side for us. More stories about India's response, nothing of note from Asia Cup also. Okay, then we come. This is the news. Amlam breaks 100-meter national record, clocks 10.25 to erase 6-year mark. 6 साल पहले का record related to 100-meter race. Sprint has been broken in India, but the world record is way less. That is 9.6 seconds, okay, for 100 meters. So with this we come to the end on the newspaper analysis. So once again, first of all, bail criteria, that's the key thing that you have to note down. Okay, plus conditions. then economic terms, that is merit, non-merit, so on. Then we have Iraq, okay, and lastly about postponement of SLS. All right, this is the most important one for all of you. ठीक है, this one is the most important, which is about bail. ठीक है, पाकिस्तान फ्लड्स, दैट्स द थिंग. अब हमने NCRB के बारे में अबाउट देम बीइंग स्टैट्यूटरी वी हैव कवर्ड, बट देयर इज नथिंग ऑफ नोट दैट टू नोट इट डाउन. लाइक इफ यू हैव अंडरस्टूड, यू हैव अंडरस्टूड. उसके अंदर एग्जाम से रिलेटेड ऐसा कोई टर्म आप नोट नहीं कर सकते. पाकिस्तान के फ्लड से रिलेटेड वहाँ की सिचुएशन, उसके बारे में हम आगे, अगर ट्रेड अलाउ होता है इंडिया में तो देन दैट इज समथिंग वी कुड डू. ओके, LCH से रिलेटेड बस कि इंडिया इज फाइनली गोइंग टू रेज अ स्क्वाड्रन ऑफ LCH, लाइट कॉम्बैट हेलीकॉप्टर्स, जो हमारे इंडिजिनस हैं उसकी एक स्क्वाड्रन रेज करेंगे. अब हम स्क्वाड्रन का मतलब होता है 6 से 8 हेलीकॉप्टर्स अब उस जगह पे एक साथ होंगे, अटैक हेलीकॉप्टर्स. ऑल राइट, so on that note we will be concluding. Now once again you can still connect with me on my telegram channel, जिसका लिंक आपको स्टिकर पे भी दिख रहा है, और हमारे नोट्स हैव बीन अपडेटेड टिल द yesterday, और वहाँ से आप इन्हें डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं. So now you can join me for the daily current affair quiz immediately after this class. उसका लिंक टेलीग्राम ग्रुप में ऑलरेडी है. So join me on the daily current affair quiz for today immediately अभी, and the code is KUSHGK. On that note, there are 2 sessions for all of you. One is by Tanvi ma'am for time and exam management, and the other is by Rabia ma'am on stress management. On that note, please ensure that if you like the analysis, do give it a like or a thumbs up. Your likes mean a lot to me about keeping this content free of cost. So please keep that in mind, and please do press the like button ज़रूर दबाओ. And if you are not a subscriber, do subscribe to the channel also. So तब तक के लिए अपना ध्यान रखो. कल फिर से सेम टाइम पे मुलाकात होगी. बाय बाय.